Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a truly profound philosophical framework from the Bhagavad Gita, specifically Chapter 2, verse 5. We're going to look at the timeless contrast between two distinct states of being, the Karpanya and the Sadhaka. Now, I know this comes from an ancient text, but trust me, its insights are essentially a masterclass on how to solve our very modern struggles with decision fatigue, anxiety, and just feeling completely stuck in life.
Real quick, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover Arjuna's ultimate confusion, the psychology of Karpanya, the difference between a Kripana and a Sadhaka, some modern applications, and we'll wrap it all up with a highly practical 3-step solution.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Arjuna's ultimate confusion, the moment of paralysis. Imagine standing right at the edge of the most important moment of your entire life, and suddenly you completely freeze. You literally don't know what to do. This perfectly illustrates our core focus today from GitaAmrit, Chapter 2, verse 5. It describes this intense moment where the great warrior Arjuna just becomes totally silent. He takes the shocking decision not to fight. He falls into a state where he is utterly confused about what his duty actually is. But instead of faking confidence, he does something incredible. He completely surrenders all his doubts to his guide, Madhusudana. He openly admits that his intellect is gripped by delusion. I mean, just think about how unbelievably hard it is for a highly accomplished person to say that out loud. But he's proving a crucial point here. When your mind is profoundly confused, dropping your ego is actually the very first vital step toward getting any real clarity. Basically, as long as we pretend we have all the answers, we stay stuck. The absolute second we accept our delusion, we open the door to the truth. Which brings us to Section 2, the psychology of Karpanya Dosha, a distorted mind. Let's look at the underlying psychology of why we freeze up like this in the first place. The texts describe this mental paralysis as a concept called Karpanya Dosha. And listen, Karpanya Dosha isn't just a simple everyday moment of indecision. It's a severe flaw or distortion that happens when our mental state completely degrades. When it hits, it leaves you entirely incapable of carrying out your responsibilities. You know exactly what you should be doing, but you're completely powerless to actually execute it because your mind itself has become distorted. The source material offers an incredibly vivid metaphor for this. They say a healthy mind is a lot like a well-kept, cultivated garden. But if you don't actively go in and remove the weeds of bad thoughts, and if you don't shape and prune it regularly, what happens? It turns into a chaotic, thorny jungle. Our minds are in this constant, nonstop flow of right and wrong thoughts. If they aren't properly managed, the mind just defaults to this distorted, thorny state. So, the big takeaway here is that unfiltered, unmanaged thoughts lead to extreme mental distortions. And our sources point to a really stark, extreme example of this from the same epic, Duryodhana. His mind was so unmanaged, so deeply corrupted by Karpanya Dosha, that it led to the horrifying and perverted act of summoning his brother's wife right into the royal assembly to disrobe her. It just shows you exactly how dark that thorny jungle can become when the mind loses its anchor to duty and righteousness. Moving on to Section 3, Karpanya versus Sadhaka, two paths of dealing with confusion. When we face life's ultimate confusions, we generally fall into one of two paths. First, let's talk about the Karpanya. What's really interesting here is the definition. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad defines a Karpanya as a miser, but we are absolutely not talking about money here. A Karpanya is someone who wastes the incredibly valuable opportunity of human life without solving its fundamental problems or attaining self-realization. These are people who rely entirely on physical material attachments, falsely believing that these worldly bonds will somehow save them from delusion and death. They basically just stay trapped in the illusion. But conversely, we have this Sadhaka, the true seeker. Arjuna, despite his initial massive panic, actually transforms into a worthy disciple, a Sadhaka. And how does he do it? By utilizing a vital toolkit of qualities: humility, modesty, devotion, dedication, perseverance, and ultimately, total surrender. You see, a true sadhaka realizes that clinging to those material attachments is actually the root cause of their confusion, so they actively seek a definitive higher solution. And the texts give us this absolutely beautiful promise. They suggest that the very moment we stop blindly arguing, kind of like how Arjuna was in the first chapter, and we start actually listening with true humility, everything shifts. By surrendering to our inner teacher and just admitting, hey, I don't have all the answers, a deep, unspeakable peace takes over. Divine clarity emerges effortlessly, literally like the radiant sun breaking through parted clouds.
The grace is always there, right? We just have to clear the mental weather to see it.
All right, Section 4, Modern Applications, the mirror to our daily struggles. Now, it is so easy to look at an ancient battlefield and think, well, that has absolutely nothing to do with me. But I really want you to ask yourself right now, how often do you experience this exact same paralysis? How often do you feel that total confusion about what your actual duty is in your day-to-day life? The sources map this ancient dilemma perfectly to our current reality. Think about it. Whether it's immense career anxiety and not knowing which path to take, or maybe a really painful conflict between what your family expects and what your personal duty demands. So often, our raw emotions just completely hijack our logic. We end up in these situations where we actually know the right choice, but we're completely unable to act on it. And what do we usually do? We either kick the can down the road by delaying the decision entirely, or we just react blindly based on pure instinct and raw emotion. Finally, Section 5, the three-step solution from surrender to clarity. Fortunately, this explainer doesn't just leave us hanging with the problem. Drawing directly from the Gita, we're given a highly practical, genuinely actionable framework to navigate these exact modern dilemmas. The process is brilliantly simple, but honestly, it's incredibly difficult for our egos to accept. Step 1, accept that you are confused. Just stop pretending you have it all figured out and admit the delusion. Step 2, seek guidance from an experienced, reliable source of truth, exactly like Arjuna turning to his guide. And step 3, once you receive that wisdom, you absolutely must perform your duty based on rational logic and a clear intellect, not on your constantly fluctuating emotions. We're going to leave you with this final, powerful thought drawn straight from our sources. As long as ego remains, and as long as we consider ourselves all-knowing, the solutions we desperately need are going to stay far, far away. But the very second we become a true sadhaka, the exact moment humility enters, the door to true knowledge swings wide open. So my question for you is this: are you letting your ego block your solutions today, or are you finally ready to embrace humility and step through that door? Take a moment to really think about that, and thank you so much for joining us on this explainer.